Swoo Flu Round 2, y'all. Back for Blood. I'm just kidding. That just sounds like a good movie title. But we are going to be talking about the pandemic today. Because it's kind of resurgent. Obviously, the Delta variant's out there. And you're seeing a spike in cases. Good thing the deaths aren't going up as high. But, you're still seeing a massive uptick across the United States, particularly in places, I think, Texas, Mississippi, Florida are some of the hot spots right now, these red states. But is this because all the dirty Republicans? Stick around and find out next time on DBZ. No, I'm just kidding, but let's jump into it. Fuck it, it's been real quick. So, Texas Democrat pull out worst public stunt ever. It's talking about, the plane of Democrats that fled Texas. They're the House members to block a bill. So, blah, 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 they blocked the bill. Soon after arriving, several tested positive for COVID-19 despite they claim being fully vaccinated. Talk about a messaging disaster. Yeah. Particularly when you see a photo like this where they're all unmasked. Because they're special. They don't have to fly on the dirty planes with the rest of us and wear their dirty masks. Nope, they fly on their COVID plane, unmasked, breathing on all of each other. Although I don't think that really matters, because guess what? Supposedly airplane filtering systems basically get rid of COVID immediately. So I don't think we're going to see an uptick from them, but it is kind of ironic that a bunch of them had COVID. But it's not just Democrats. So other stories in the news compound the confusion. Yankees players seem to be dropping off the roster like flies because they've tested positive with the virus. Most of them reported have been vaccinated too. In the UK, a nation with the highest vaccine rates, there has been a huge surge in infections. Some 88% of Brits have received at least one shot. 69% have taken two. In breaking news, staffers to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the White House have tested positive for COVID-19. They too are reportedly fully vaccinated. And that's part of this new variant. Apparently, it's, the vaccine doesn't work as well against it. But the good news is if you've been vaccinated, you get milder symptoms. And, I don't think they've really had any deaths of someone who's been vaccinated. So the vaccine kind of works in a way, which is great, because I would much rather not have the symptoms. They sound pretty miserable from what I understood. And which is fantastic, little achiness versus being on my ass for fucking 2 days and lose my sense of taste. Sounds okay. But I don't want to sit here and talk about spread, because I'm not the scientist on that. I think what I want to talk about is vaccine rates, particularly among people, the unvaccinated. Obviously, full disclaimer, I'm fully vaccinated. Didn't hurt as bad, and my healthcare paid for it, so it made no sense really not to. Maybe I'll, get cancer from it in 20 years and die, but I'll die eventually anyway. So, but this article goes on to, instead of explaining explaining the conflicting trends, Biden accused Facebook of killing people because the social media giant hasn't managed to stomp out all vaccine misinformation. Biden later backed off that comment. Isn't it reasonable to voice some skepticism about a vaccine if people are getting sick? That's a good point, right? We should all sympathize with anyone who is infected by the virus and not recover quickly, but given the left's politicalization of this pandemic, it is amusing to find these self-congratulating super spreader Texans in a pickle. Well, it's funny that Texans in a pickle anyway, because that whole state's having a spike. It's not just them. And, Greg Abbott opened up early, so maybe that speaks to. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but the vaccine rates, I think, is where it's going to have to do with that, and we'll talk about that. But perhaps nothing's more important to Joe Biden's presidency than access to the vaccine. But he did not oversee, inspire, or even applaud the creation of the vaccine. That was the job of President Trump's Operation Warp Speed. And this is true. Even at the time when it was coming out, Joe Biden was skeptical of the vaccine. And he said he wanted to see the science behind it, which is fair. I think it's fair. He maybe gets a little bad rap. I may have given him some crap in the past, but gone back, reviewed the footage, and him and Kamala Harris basically said the same thing, that they didn't trust the vaccine. They didn't say they wouldn't get it, but they wanted to vet it more harshly, and they were skeptical of it. And I think that's played a part in what you're seeing today with the lower vaccine rates. You'd be crazy to think it didn't. So, in fact, people in this administration threw shade on I don't even know what that word is. Huh. Inoculations? I don't know. Well, I'm not an English major. I'm just a dumb white guy. So Vice President Kamala Harris said she would not trust Trump's vaccine. This is true. Little did she know that months later her boss' credibility would rest on dispelling the hesitancy sown in part by her and other Democrats, or that she and her husband, the second gentleman, would crisscross the country to convince people to get the jab. Well, let's be real. Kamala Harris isn't convincing anyone to do anything. She's a fucking terrible person, and she's unlikable and just despised by pretty much everyone. That's why she was one of the first people to drop out of the Democratic race. The Party of Inclusion, who has this, supposedly this giant black base in their voters, and the party of the fucking intersectionality, couldn't even stand her. That's how fucking terrible this woman is. You think anyone else is gonna listen to her? She couldn't even get them to? Yeah, right. So let's talk about Biden going after Facebook, right? He said they were killing people, and then he walked that back and said, well, they're allowing misinformation, which is killing people. In a sense, not blaming them directly, but blaming them indirectly. And he's calling for censorship. This is a whole other topic. I don't even want to get into it because it boils my blood. And it's gonna be a video of cursors, and I'm trying not to, stress myself out over it. But when you have stuff like that, he's going after social media, he's trying to find the scapegoat. The truth is, he missed his July goal, and it's probably, I don't think it's necessarily due to misinformation. I think it's due to hesitancy, and I think it's about bad messaging and bad optics, right? And this can be blamed on, I think, two parts. One, the fact that we still have Fauci sitting out there, and he's the face of the health organization, right? This is a guy who no one trusts, no one cares about, and half the country despises. He's come out. He said he lied. He bold-faced said he lied to us on several occasions. He's flip-flopped his stance several times, and then you have his emails where you see that he was giving information, and he blatantly rejected it, basically, when it came to lab leak theory. He's like, that's not credible at all, even though he had several emails saying, hey, guess what? It might be. Don't look at this though. So one, he has all credit. He doesn't have credibility, and he's not likable. But then two, I besides Fauci, we need to get him away. No one likes him. No one cares about him. He's made outlandish statements like, they're attacking me, they're attacking science. Like, who put this man on such a fucking pedestal? He's done nothing but be on talk show TV fucking all year. CNN and getting his glad handed. Oh yeah, let's jerk off his ego. Like, fuck him. No one cares what he thinks. Get him out of there. Get someone who has better credibility, who hasn't burned ties with basically the American public at large. And so you have Fauci, who's kind of no one's gonna listen to that guy. And then you also so on that one hand you got him and his messaging, and then you have and we'll just lump in the messaging all together with him, but he's the big one. But then you have other people who don't see the threat of COVID, right? So they're given two options. They're on a scale, and they have take the vaccine or potentially die of COVID. which one's worse? And then we've had minor symptoms and issues with people with the vaccine, particularly young people. I think you had was it the 10-year-old who died of like heart inflammation, and you had some other the Johnson Johnson almost being pulled temporarily for what was it, blood clots in women. So people look at that and they're like, well, COVID's death rate is particularly not too high in maybe my age group, or my group. Like me, I'm a young man. I'm not obese. I don't have any other underlying factors. So, am I really at risk for COVID? No. Now, I went ahead and got vaccinated anyway, because why not? But there's other people like me who just didn't. They don't see it as necessity, and that's kind of where the messaging has come back from people. But you also have hesitancy among the Black community, and Latino community, and I'm just going to spitball here, but what was it? Joe Biden came out and was alluding to the Tuskegee incident, as he calls it, the Tuskegee incident, where the government basically experimented on African Americans. And then you also probably have a Latino community, with all this talk of deportation, they're probably not too ready to come forward, particularly when you have some misinformation out there that's saying, oh, they're microchipping you. So I think it's a twofold problem. Is your messaging's been terrible, and the people at the forefront of your messaging, the face of who's going to get out there, has been bad. And it's just something that you're going to have to overcome, particularly if you want to get people to take it. Now, I know that the media is blaming Republicans because it's supposedly these red states, but you have people all over, and the highest on vaccination rates are among the Black and Latino communities. And I think that comes down to messaging, and it comes down to people spreading your fucking message, right? Because there's no reason, like, realistically not to, particularly because minority communities are the hardest hit. So these are the people we should be putting the vaccine out to most. So I think we need to change our message and change who's spreading our message. So instead of having Fauci out there, get someone who's respected in the Black community and is a scientist. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is epidemiology and all this other shit. Field expertise, but no, that man is fucking brilliant, and I love listening to him speak about anything. And he's also a widely respected person of the Black community as well as the scientific community. And I think if we got him out there trying to send a message, that'd be great. Or Charlemagne the God, someone who's a culture icon out there doing it, and take Dr. Fauci out of there, like bench that motherfucker. Oh, well, I lasted a little while, but bench him and change your message and show the positivity effects, and stop trying to scare people into doing it, and make a solid case. And none of this, well, you're gonna kill grandma crap, like that didn't work. Okay, you tried that, right? So put another round in the chamber and take another shot. The worst case, because your vaccine rates can go down at this point, and the Delta variant is supposedly more contagious and is affecting higher rates of people who are unvaccinated. So we need to fix this. And I think we fix it with better government messaging and also better messengers. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And this goes on both sides. You know what I mean? Like, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mitch McConnell coming out, tell fucking Republicans and people to get the sticky icky, right? Guess what? Marjorie Taylor Greene is a proved conspiracy theorist. Like, she's banned off Twitter because of it. Like really. Anyone who listens to her, they're already not getting vaccines. They think it's microchipped. And then you have Mitch McConnell, who is probably the I'm not going to say probably, is the least liked Senate Republican of my lifetime. Can't stand the guy. God, I just Kentucky, please get rid of the motherfucker because holy shit, I'm so sick of listening to him. So this goes on both sides. Like this is just a universal issue. Fix our messaging and fix our messengers, and I think we have a better shot at getting vaccinations up. So there's the issue. There's my solution. Thank you for sticking around and listening to me. And I hope you all have another wonderful day. Toodles.